I'm looking for somebody to turn me on to it. I don't know who it will be, but I'm in full support of the Maharishi and everything about him.
And I, of course, am not a discotheque crumptum singer. You know, I get up and I sing square songs from places like Broadway and films, and all of the music to fall off motorcycles by I don't make. You know.
What sort of music do you dig the most?
Well, I like classical. I like classical and blues.
And they call me the bronze Liberace.
Bull feathers.
Hello, I'm Fred Latremouille, and this is Where It's At. And of course, we all know that pop music is where it's at, right? And we know this because the media tells us so, especially magazines. Gossip, charts, trends, etc., trend analysis. What do they really tell you? I don't think they tell you very much. In fact, you could throw most of these things away. But what we can do with television is give you an idea of where it's at in the pop music field by x-raying some of the people and having a chat with them about how they feel about the business. All linear communications are out of date, so we got a television magazine show today. For instance, if John Lennon says in print, "I don't know," he might be saying, "I don't know," or he might be saying, "I don't know." So, today, on Where It's At, this is what we're up to. The medium is the message, and we got a television magazine. We'll be talking with Spencer Davis, 1910 Fruitgum Company, Deep Purple, Creedence, Clearwater, etc., etc.
Let's talk generally about music. What's happening on the English scene that's really exciting?
Well, to be quite honest with you, not a great deal at the moment. It seems like most of the English groups are over here in the States or in Canada. Sort of Jimi Hendrix spends most of his time over here.
I don't think there's a great deal happening here musically either.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, there's been a sort of kind of a lull in everybody's waiting for something to come out.
Well, what is coming out? What kind of music could we expect to be the next major trend? If there is going to be any trends from now on in, and I doubt it.
We've just been doing what comes out, you know, just recording and whatever sounds best at the time.
You don't plot your sound that far in advance. You don't go, well, 6 months from now we're going to sound like a Japanese mariachi band or something. You just do it.
Do you think that because of the popularity of that particular song, that rock, basic rock, is going to be there's going to be a revival of it?
I know you have to say that, and it's too bad, but there's a big thing going on right now, one of which is, can white singers sing black music? And the other one is there a rock and roll revival or isn't there, you know? And we kind of feel that there's just no trend on either of those questions. The people who are involved with it, you know, doing it, I don't think sit around and worry about it too much, you know? But it's always those same couple of questions. I threw the other one in because I know you're going to get to it eventually. You know?
Okay.
It's a rock and roll revival. It's every year there's old songs done in a new way, or there's strict rock and roll records because they're always being made, and a few of them make it each year. You know, but it's not like we sat down and said, hey, let's base our sound on, you know, the middle 50s.
You know, every few years, for some reason, the record companies decide that rock and roll is dying, you know. It's been this way ever since the beginning. So they start adding strings and other instruments that somehow don't fit, and lots of big chorus backgrounds and everything. And every time they do this, and these records come out, they seem to make the whole market drop down a little. And every time this happens, then rock and roll comes back even stronger. It just keeps happening.
You particularly interested in the so-called rock revival that's supposed to have been happening around in London, for example?
London is a very faddish place, I would think. And this week it's rock revival. And the next week it's Bonnie and Clyde revival. Yeah. And the week after that it's some other kind of revival. So I don't think you can trust your ears anymore these days.
Well, Mike Love, it's not just London that's faddish. The whole industry is based on fads. Agents and record companies spend most of their time trying to second-guess the next trend. And sometimes they're natural trends. Sometimes they're manufactured. The hype, when a group or a businessman spend hundreds of thousands of dollars promoting a group or a sound in order to turn it into a trend. Sometimes a supergroup like the Beatles can start a trend. John Lennon tells me that their next record will be really simple. No overdubbing, anything like that. Just no fiddling with the master, a natural sound.
Well, they're in the position where they can afford to really goof as much as they want in the studio, in studio time and in acceptance. And I wish every group had the opportunity to do that, where it would be accepted for whatever product it was. Unfortunately, the market and the audiences are set up a little bit differently, where there's what's known as promotional hype, which everybody's aware of.
And a lot of groups suffer from that, too.
Yeah, they really do. Sure.
They get exposed too fast.
It can be a deficit as much as an asset. You know.
Can you think of any groups? I can think of a couple around.
Moby Grape, well,
They
were and that Houston group that got overexposed right away. No, the Fever Tree was hyped so much that by the time they played live, no one was ready. You know, they just were over.
And how about the Bosstown sound?
That was another
hype. They couldn't be good enough. They were before you even saw them, you expected too much.
There are good groups from Boston that are
fantastic
suffering from
contracts and everything.
Sure.
But they weren't together as people, it seemed, you know, because when they got all the contracts and got all the music and the fine musicians, some of those people were.
Yeah, we'd have to have harmony, and if I can make it.
Yeah.
Then the downfall of a lot of groups.
This is my point of view anyway. There are a lot of groups in the North American continent, a hell of a lot. A lot of groups which feel they should play a certain way. These groups play a certain way and therefore have created, by playing that way, an audience which you call the underground.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
it's a nasty term. I don't like to label things.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. It's like hippie. What's it mean?
Exactly. I mean, it could mean you or me. It could mean the guy over there. You know, it could mean,
it used to imply a resistance movement.
Sure, but it doesn't anymore. It just I mean, the underground thing, as far as records is concerned, is a heavy market.
Yeah.
You know, it's as heavy as the teeny.
But is it heavy because it's labeled underground, or because it is something? You know, what, for example, in your opinion, John, is underground music?
Well, it's not the 1910 Fruitgum Company. It's about, you know.
Yeah. But what is it?
I mean, bless them. I mean, they're creating music which has a demand,
a need.
you know, and which is filling a need. So I'm not putting them down. Please, you know, don't get me wrong.
No.
Because maybe that's in their heads. Maybe that's what they want to really play.
Now, when you started out, had you intended to go after that age group to begin with, as a group?
When we first started out, before we got our contract, we were into different things. And when we met our manager, he had the record and gave us the record. And that's how we got into it. We're very pleased with the results.
Who were the people behind you in the beginning? Were they... Give us those two names.
Jeff Katz and Jerry Kasnitz.
They're incredible.
Super.
They really are.
They
They're going to any other thing. They're going to Super K
Productions.
Right. Super K Productions.
Often there's a thin line between what's good and what's bad, and I don't really believe that what's commercial or, you know, what's expected of you to do is really the thing to do, you know. Yeah. Although we've done it many times, you know.
The record company had a tendency at first to try to get us to do, you know, follow the pattern.
Yeah, you know, if you don't have the right record at the right time, you know,
but they're
done the way they want it, they put out something off your old album, you know.
I don't see any point at all in doing a number which you don't believe in.
Yeah.
If you play something, you see, music's incredibly personal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's universal. I mean, because what you eventually produce is going to, you know, hit a lot of people.
We want to, you know, we enjoy playing in person, but we don't enjoy all the business involved. Business has a bad connotation to us, especially nowadays. We've gone through an agency and all that, and we've gone through a manager before, and they just don't understand what's going on. And, you know, we're not raving beatniks that, you know, won't have anything to do with straight people. That's not the point, but, you know, put a Dodge in your garage, etc. Yeah, that whole kind of thinking is just, you know, doesn't make it. So we want to put what we think on records, you know, do our music, get it all down, and then put it on records. And it's like committing yourself. You know, here we are, and you can play it back and see what we think about things, because, you know, any other, you know, there's not going to be Creedence Clearwater moccasins or something, you know, with Creedence Clearwater dolls.
Super K is a hype company, and what is called bubblegum music is a fairly successful hype. But that's a rarity, because the managers and promoters don't control the market anymore. The days of Colonel Tom Parker, Presley's manager, are over. Naturally, there are trends, like the country music trend, the blues trend, but none of these has really given the music a definite direction. There is something happening now called sort of a spiritual revival. How long it'll last, I don't know.
Well,
Franklin's
really
Records
good.
it's a great time because anything can make it. It's not, you don't have to be this, or you had to be, quote, psychedelic before, and all this, and you had to be this before that. Long hair, you had to have long hair before that, and you had to have sideburns before that. And now it's just, it's in one of those phases like before the Beatles. I got all of them. Anyway, it's to that phase where anybody can make it. The chart, you look at the top 10, and it's
Those were the
going
days
from
by
Moline
Ray
to
Hopkins.
Bubblegum.
Would have believed it. Well, it's like one of the big radio programmers, Bill Drake, has predicted within 5 years that there won't, you know, within 3 years or something like that, there won't be a top 40 format. That they'll have to do away with that type of play, which is
thank goodness.
which is a rough thing to go by because a lot of good records and artists have been killed by it.
Well,
you know?
yeah, it's good.
Right now, though, the charts do control the business. And who controls the charts? The name Bill Drake was brought up by one of the grassroots. There are about 8 or 10 cities in the States that are barometer areas, and they're called breakout cities. If a record makes good in one of these cities, it's almost sure to hit the top 10. And out of the hundreds of records that are released each week, who decides which 5 or 10 records will be played? Well, the music directors or production manager of the radio stations in those areas, that's who. So that's really who's controlling the music business. How do the groups in England react to this?
I like to play here for the simple reason that I can go on stage and play my instrument, which is the organ, and I know that 90% of the audience are going to be listening to what I'm playing. They're not there to say, oh, that's one of the Deep Purple. What a groovy guy, you know, look at the clothes he's wearing. I must get his autograph because they've been in the
Are you
top
saying
10.
that's what happens in England?
It does.
Still?
We're incredibly chart conscious.
Yeah. And do you think this is largely due to the lack of media and lack of exposure?
It's the only reason.
Yeah.
We have two
what
television
can be done
channels.
to stop that? Surely
more
people
radio.
like you who have some influence.
Well, there's an agent in England called Harold Davidson. He's a big guy, you know. He is interested in starting an English underground movement from a financial point of view, right?
Yeah.
Which is a drag. I mean, he comes to us and he says, I want to start an English underground, man.
So they've got similar problems in England. And we'll be back in a minute to take a look at some of the other aspects of the pop music business.